Emulation operating system. If you've ever used Recalbox or RetroPie, you're going to be very familiar with this. They all use Emulation Station and they all use libretro cores. The difference between Batocera and Recalbox, in my opinion, Batocera has more systems and it has better hardware compatibility. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get it installed. We're going to move over to my Windows PC and we're going to flash this operating system to the USB drive. Okay, so first things first, obviously I'm running Windows 10 here. Like I mentioned, this will work with Mac, Linux, or Windows. I've inserted my USB drive. Just going to take a look real quick. It's a 32 gigabyte USB 3.0 drive. It's in the machine now. We now need to download everything we're going to be using, so all the links will be in the description. We're going to download 3 applications. First up, Batocera. You can call it Batocera, whatever you want, doesn't matter to me. Read through this page, there is tons of information here. They also have a forum you can join, so if you run into any issues, you can ask a question there. This is a supported systems by architecture chart, so we're going to be using PC x86 64-bit, and it pretty much supports everything that's in Batocera at this moment. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and we want to download the x64 for PC version. If your CPU is too old and it doesn't support 64-bit, you will have to get the 32-bit version, but in this video we're focusing on the 64-bit. We're going to download it here. It's about 800 megs, and then we need to extract it. We also need a way to install this to our USB drive. We have to flash it to the USB, so we're going to be using an application called Etcher. There's a version for Linux, Mac, and Windows. I'm going to be downloading the Windows 64-bit version. And finally, I do recommend downloading some software so we can extract the image. Now, Etcher will do it automatically, but we can save a little time by downloading WinRAR. You might already have 7-zip installed on your PC. That'll also work. So everything finished downloading for me, and I've placed it on my desktop for easy access. The first thing we want to do is extract the Batocera image. We're just going to right click and extract. If you downloaded and installed WinRAR, you'll get a new option. Batocera is finished extracting. You get a folder with an image file. It's almost 2 gigabytes. We're now going to flash that image to a USB drive, so go ahead and launch Etcher. And remember, I already have my USB drive plugged into my PC. From Etcher's main interface, we're going to select image. From here, we're going to navigate to where we extracted Batocera. Mine's on my desktop, and we're going to grab that image file. Just go ahead and double click on it. Next up, you want to make sure you're flashing to the correct USB drive. It should be chosen here, but just double check. Choose continue and flash. It's going to go ahead and install the image to the USB drive, then it's going to verify the file system. This could take a little while depending on the speed of your USB port and the drive, so just let it finish up. It will prompt you when it's done. Once it's done flashing, we're just going to move over to the PC we're going to run this on, plug the USB drive in, and we have to access the BIOS or the boot menu. Depending on the manufacturer, it's going to be a different key. For instance, on the PC that I'm going to be using, it's F2 to enter the BIOS. Now I'm going to set this up so it always boots from that USB drive, so we don't have to have a keyboard connected, only a controller. But you can access the boot menu and start it from there if you want to do like a dual boot on the PC. All manufacturers have different hotkeys for entering the BIOS or the boot menu, so you will have to do some research. Like I said, on this one, for the BIOS it's F2, for the boot menu it's F12. It could be F11, delete, F3, F5, so you may have to do a little research online to find out what the hotkey is for your PC. I have my USB drive and I also have a keyboard. I'm going to set this up so I won't need a keyboard anymore. Every time I turn this on, it'll boot from that USB drive. I'm going to power it on and get ready to press my hotkey to enter my BIOS menu. This one's F2. So here's my BIOS. I'm going to move in a little closer so we can see this better. On this system here, I don't have any hard drives installed. I only have that USB drive. I'm going to scroll down to boot sequence, and I'm going to make sure that I set my USB device as number 1. Nothing else is present, so it would always boot from this anyway. I'm going to make sure I set it as number 1. So I went to boot sequence. This could also be known as boot order or boot menu, depending on the BIOS or the manufacturer of your PC. Most Dells, most Optiplexes, it's called boot sequence. On this machine, in order to move this up, I'm going to press U on the keyboard. So there's kind of a ledger down at the bottom. It tells you exactly what to do, how to move stuff around in your BIOS. Make sure you read through everything before you start messing around. I'm also going to disable the other drive so I don't get any warnings when it boots up. Now I'm going to save these changes. I'll just press escape on my keyboard. It's going to prompt me, do I want to save? I'm going to click accept. Now I'll press escape one more time, move over to save and exit. So every time this PC boots up, it's going to boot from a USB drive. If you don't want to boot from the USB every time, you can always enter the boot menu. It's F12 on this PC. It just gives me the option to boot from the USB device. If you press enter, you're going to boot up from there. And if everything went correctly, you'll see Batocera Linux up in the top left-hand corner. Now the first boot does take a lot longer than it does to boot up every other time. It has to do some configuration, so give it time. Alright, so here's Batocera. It's now up and running. I've plugged in my Xbox controller. It's already pre-configured out of the box. You can actually start playing games right now. There's some freeware stuff installed, but we definitely want to add more games to this. Now, if you plugged in your controller and it's not configured, you're going to be prompted with a screen that looks sort of like this. Just follow the on-screen prompts and you can set your controller up in no time. There's even little tiny pictures by each one of these that shows you what button you need to press. Hotkey is usually my Xbox or my PS button. So now it's time to add some games. Like I said at the beginning, we can use an external drive if you want. So you'd have 2 USB drives or a USB drive to run the operating system, and another USB drive or external hard drive to store your games. I prefer using everything on one USB drive, so that's what I'm going to be covering. But if you want to use an external drive, press Start, go to Storage Device, and choose the extra drive that you have plugged in. The system will reboot, then you can take that drive out, plug it into your Windows PC, put all your games in the correct folder. This whole operating system can also be installed to an internal hard drive. I will cover that in another video coming up very shortly, but this is already getting pretty long. So I want to use this single USB drive to store the OS and my games. I'm going to transfer all my games over network to this PC here. So I'm going to head down to network settings. I've plugged in my Ethernet cable to the back of this PC, and it's going to show me my IP address. Make a mental note of your IP and the host name. You could use the host name or the IP. I prefer using this IP here. Mine's 192.168.1.231. If you want to enable Wi-Fi, if you use the Wi-Fi adapter, click Enable Wi-Fi, scroll down to Wi-Fi SSID, type in the Wi-Fi network you want to connect to, and the Wi-Fi key is the password. That way you're connected online with Wi-Fi. But I have easy access to Ethernet, so mine's plugged in. Unfortunately, we have to transfer games over network because if we take this USB drive out that we flashed and try to plug it into our Windows PC, we have no way to add games. It's an ext3 Linux format, and Windows can't read it. Go ahead and write your IP address down if this is in a different room. We're going to move over to a Windows PC. This will work with Mac, Linux, or Windows, and we're going to transfer our games over network. Alright, so now it's time to transfer some games over to our PC. Make sure you're on the same exact network. So I'm going to be transferring from this PC to the PC we installed Batocera on. They are on the same network. We're just going to open up a file explorer. From the very top here, we're going to type in / and the IP address we just got from our Batocera PC. We're going to get a little folder called Share. Now, in order to see this, they both have to be on the same network. Inside of here, we have our BIOSes, cheats, extractions, Kodi, lost and found, music, ROMs. We're going to be focusing on the ROM directory. We're going to open this up, and inside of here, there's a folder for each system that's supported. Now, I already have some games over here on a separate drive, and all I'm going to do is transfer a few. So let's say I want some GameCube games. We're going to open up the GameCube folder. This is on our Batocera PC, and I'm going to transfer the GameCube game over. It's going to transfer over my network, give it a little time to finish up. While I'm here, I'll go ahead and transfer a couple more. We'll do some SNES. Find SNES. Let those transfer over. And I'll also do some Dreamcast. So we'll find Dreamcast. I'll just transfer a Dreamcast game over. All of this is being transferred from the PC we're on right now to the USB drive on our Batocera machine over network. So as soon as we're done transferring all the ROMs we want, we can move back over to the Batocera machine, give it a reboot, or we can refresh the ROMs list and start playing these games that we just transferred. Some systems do require a BIOS like Dreamcast, and you can place that right here. There's tons of information online. If you really get stuck, there's an awesome little tool built into Batocera, and I'm going to show you that right now. It shows you what BIOSes are missing and which ones you need. Our new games are now installed, but we're not seeing them just yet. We need to refresh the list. You can either reboot the system or press start on your controller, scroll down to game settings, and at the very bottom here, there is a update games list option. Press yes, and now it updated the games list. Batocera knows we have new games. So I have some GameCube, some Dreamcast, and some Super Nintendo games. We can start playing them right now, or we can make it look a little better by adding some box art. We're going to scrape these ROMs so we can get metadata and box art downloaded. You need to be online for this to work. Press start on your controller, scroll down to scrape. Now I do manual scraper, you can do automatic if you'd like. So from the manual scraper options, I usually just choose a few systems at one time. So I have 7 systems selected, but I'm going to unselect all of them except for Super Nintendo. Just make this quick. Press back, and now we're just going to click start. It's going to go online, scrape all of our images that are missing, give us some metadata and even ratings on the games. My 5 Super Nintendo games were scraped successfully. I'm just going to go back. And now we have some nice looking box art and screenshots here. Just cleans up the whole setup. It looks really good like this. There's a lot more to cover with Batocera, but this video is already going to be up there 15-20 minutes long. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and you can also visit the Batocera forum and search around there. But real quick, if anybody wants to connect a Bluetooth controller, make sure you have your Bluetooth dongle plugged in. Press start, go to controller settings, and pair a Bluetooth controller. Now put your controller in pairing mode. It really depends on what controller you're using. You can find that online, and you can link it up. Then you'll just have to reset your controller like I showed you at the beginning, and you have wireless controllers. The easiest way to start learning about this operating system is just use it. Press start on your controller and scroll through all of the options. Most of it's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't understand what you're clicking on, don't do it. There are a couple other settings that I kind of want to go over. First up, finding missing BIOSes. I'm not going to show you where to get them, you can Google search it, but press start on your controller, go to game settings, scroll all the way down until we see missing BIOSes. Now I'm going to be focusing on Dreamcast here. We'll just find Dreamcast in the list. And as you can see, it tells you the BIOS name and the MD5 checksum. It also tells you if it's missing or present. This is just a quick way to see if you have the correct BIOS for the correct system. Now you will have to find these on your own. You can just do a quick Google search. The next thing is sound. So if you're not getting sound out through your HDMI or your 3.5mm audio jack, press start on your controller and find sound settings. From here, we can choose the output device. Most of the time I find that leaving it on auto works well, but you might have to change this if you're not getting sound out of your HDMI or 3.5. And the last thing I want to show you is how to change the aspect ratio of a game. So like let's say you want to do GameCube. They're going to be running at 16:9 on this. GameCube games were originally intended for 4:3. So we're going to press start on our controller, go to game settings, find advanced, should be located near the bottom. And from here, we can choose each system. There are some other settings in here, like the core itself, but the main thing that I'm focusing on here is the game ratio. I want to turn this to 4:3. Some people like 16:9, but it does stretch out these older games. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I really appreciate you watching. I know it was a bit long, but I wanted to cover everything that I could. The last thing left to do is start playing your favorite games. If you could, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button, maybe share this video, and like always, thanks for watching.